Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about Gunpla, anime series, Gundam music, the upcoming movie, eventually even Gundam fashion. We talk about everything Gundam, Brian. Everything.
And one of those things is Gundam SEED, Isaac. We left off on our last review with our characters stranded in Orb.
Oh, Orb. Orb. What could you possibly represent, Orb? Yes, so our heroes aboard the Archangel were seeking shelter. They got to Orb, and they decided to kind of wait it out there, right, Brian?
They did. So if you couldn't tell, today is going to be, we're going to wrap up our review of Gundam SEED, the back half. And I got to say, I just finished my rewatch, Isaac, about, I don't know, half an hour ago. And I got a lot of questions for you. And you said I came to the right place.
That's right. Welcome to Blue Cosmos headquarters. My name's Isaac. I'll be happy to assist you. So any questions you have, I'll be here to answer them.
I'm excited. I got an after-action review list here, or a
Good.
post-mortem list.
Well, yeah, a lot of people do die, right?
Yeah. So how would you describe the plot of the back half of Gundam SEED? Because I feel like the back half of this show really picked up in both some good and bad ways.
Huh. That's a good way of putting it. On the one hand, it reaches a level of being unbelievable. And then on the other hand, they really raise the stakes by, bringing out the super weapons, an epic final battle, and they pretty much do their version of a Baoku. And also Solomon.
Yeah. It's basically the same battle. The last 5-10 episodes, they kind of all bled together to me.
Right, yeah. Once they're in space, it pretty much turns into the plants and what's left of Zaft is really all just in one spot, and they just need to bring all their ships and mobile suits there and battle it out.
Pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, as of last week, our heroes were in Orb, and they were being sort of secretly held there because Orb is quote unquote neutral. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, even though they helped design the Gundams and all that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call yourself neutral if you really do that.
No, they're a nation of Earth, as was explained.
But of course, our Zaft boys, they get in with some fake IDs, which I wasn't sure if that was like a meta commentary on the fact that these are these like young children and they're really too young to be even fighting in this war. But
yeah, everybody will like nod and just believe that they're like engineers or mechanics or whatever the heck they were supposed to be, right?
Yes.
They're like, oh
yes.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So they get into Orb. We get introduced to a lot of stuff in the back half.
Yeah.
Everybody starts having mobile suits, whereas I feel like the mobile suits were maybe more special in the first half, and then all of a sudden in the back half, every nation gets a mobile suit. Naturals get mobile suits. They're just handing these things out like candy here. I think right away we are greeted with Orb's new mobile suits, the M1 Astrays. What did you think of the Astrays, Isaac?
I mean, I like the colors. To an extent, they're a little bland, I guess, but it's serviceable, I guess. I don't know. It kind of threw me for a loop, though. Like, really, Orb can afford like essentially mass-produced Gundams, but the rest of the Earth Alliance, they just put out these, essentially blue gems. So I was like,
their look is a lot better than their success.
Exactly. Yeah, they're essentially gems that have like the cosmetics of a Gundam.
Yes.
Because battle-wise, they one shot from one of those strike daggers, yeah, you'll go down.
Yeah, they're toast. Because I think in the back half, we definitely reached the point in the show when all of a sudden all the grunt suits become made out of paper.
Right.
In the beginning of the show, right, even the Jins were sort of tough. Like, they took a few hits.
Kira had a hard time, yeah.
Yeah, but now in the back half, the Jins, the strike daggers, and the Astrays, they just fold. Like, you flick them the wrong way and they just crumble, which is unfortunate, but so it goes when you're an army builder grunt suit.
In their defense, though, we're reaching the point where like the Earth Alliance, well, pretty much anybody on Orb, so Earth Alliance and Orb, they're fielding beam weapons left and right. Like, they don't even use like machine guns anymore or conventional weapons. Like, Zaft is still doing that for some reason with like Jins with machine guns.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the Jin sword is like the equivalent of the Zaku Heat Hawk, right?
Right, except the Heat Hawk superior because it's so much lighter and thinner, and the Jin sword is like, I don't know, it's too chunky for its own good.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So we see these estrays, and the Morgan wrote mechanic, Erica Simmons, gives the seed factor a name or defines the acronym. This show loves its acronyms, Isaac. This is probably one of like 10 acronyms we get in the back half.
Dare I say this is the first time we've seen Gundam presented as an acronym.
I think you're right. If I remember right, did it have 2 different acronyms in this show, or was it the same acronym both times?
That's a good point. I just remember it being one, which was, oh god, this is a horrible acronym. General Purpose Utility Non-Discontinued. Never mind. I don't even want to say it. I don't want to give it credence because it's nonsense. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so we've had Gundam, and then she says that SEED stands for Superior Evolutionary Element Destined Factor.
Oh god.
And she basically just says, I think Kira is better than all the other coordinators. And that's kind of all we got out of her, which was strange. So she's going to like monitor this guy. So Kira makes her a new operating system for the Estrays to make naturals be able to pilot mobile suits. It actually allows Mu to pilot the Strike later on in Kigali.
Thick-headed natural Mu.
Yeah, but this actually leads me into a point I want to ask you about.
Uh-oh.
So,
do it.
Archangel refuels in Orb, but the Zaf boys, they know they're there because Birdie flies out and goes to Atherin, and then Atherin and Kira, we get this good scene actually where they have to pretend they don't know each other in front of the other Zaf boys and in front of Kigali, and Atherin gives Birdie back to Kira. So then the Zaf boys kind of lay in wait, right? And then they attack when the Archangel, as soon as the Archangel leaves. Surprise, surprise, the Zaf boys are waiting. And Kira just kind of mows them all down for the most part. He kind of embarrasses them. He embarrasses, especially Izak. He embarrasses Izak every time they fight. He's always cutting off his legs, cutting off his arms, his head, doing something. Whatever company makes the dual replacement parts, they must be pulling in a lot of money.
Probably like scarring up his face any chance he gets.
And then that's the battle where Kira kills Nicole because Kira's beating on Atherin.
Oh, yeah.
Nicole runs in and Kira kind of just slices him in half. Pretty gruesome death, actually.
Yeah, beam saber to the face. Nicole's face, not his Gundam's face.
Yeah. But I don't think that they did a good job overall in this show of showing why the coordinators can more easily pilot mobile suits than naturals. Because once Kira makes like the other operating system for the naturals, I feel like there's not a big gap in skill.
I mean, I think this conversation has been had a couple times in the series where they say just because you're a coordinator, you're not handed better results automatically. You do have to work for it. So, a mobile suit in the hands of a natural like Mu is going to outperform, a bunch of little flunky grunt coordinator pilots that are in Jins or, other types of Zaf mobile suits. So, again, it comes down to the individual a lot. And also coordinators are overrated. So yeah, there's that.
For our blue and pure world.
So, I mean, this is a case of Zaf creating mobile suits first and saying, oh, we're also superior, blah, blah, blah. And then, later on, the other faction just making them themselves and being able to catch up and really surpass Zaf, I think.
But like, how bad was that original operating system that the naturals were just like, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard. Like, I don't get it. Like, was it really that bad?
I would assume not, because weren't the villainous Gundams in production at this time, like Forbidden and Calamity and all that? So I assume they had figured it out in the Earth Alliance on like, their end. But this was more like Kira just kind of being like, oh yeah, by the way, as a pilot, here, let me customize an operating system. Since I have intimate experience both as an engineer and a pilot inside this Gundam, I can, give you the training wheels version of a pilot system.
So yeah, that was my take on that. Because I think the Kira was embarrassing the other coordinators, and maybe it's because he's the best coordinator of them all. But still,
Jesus, he's Jesus.
Jesus Yamato.
The second coming of Kira Yamato.
So after Nicole gets cut in half, the Zaf boys are very mad, and they basically just try again the next day. And I guess they just try harder or something this time. Maybe they just needed motivation this whole time, because all of a sudden the next day they just do better. Again, I guess they're mad, they're angry, and they really get Kira on the ropes this time. And the Archangel's just kind of going down here. And then that's when Athrun kills Kira's friend Toll, who, like an idiot, went out in the Sky Grasper and thought he could do a good job, which is maybe one of the more gruesome deaths in the show, Isaac. And I think they show it about every other episode after it happens. They replay it all the time.
And then it just cuts off, and you never hear about it again. Like, people forget about him. We never hear about him again in, like, the last quarter.
Yeah, like, Mirielia was really upset about it for about an episode. And then Athrun ends up joining, and then kind of all is forgiven. But yeah, this dude took like the Aegis's beam boomerang to the face, which, by the way, I still don't understand the beam boomerang. Does it have like a jet on it, or is it just a boomerang?
I don't know. It's a mystery. It's powered by human emotion. I can't tell you because it doesn't look like it makes sense, but here we are.
So during that fight, Athrun kind of kicks Kira's ass, to be frank.
Yeah.
Basically had Kira dead to rights. He ends up using the mobile armor mode of the Aegis, which is pretty neat, I guess, when it used correctly. And he latches onto the strike, and basically point blank, he's going to blow him up with that chest cannon thing. But he runs out of power, which is a bit of a gimmick they rely on too much, I think, in the back half. So he runs out of power, he can't fire it. So instead, he self-destructs his suit, which Athrun has this thing about self-destructing his own suit. Maybe it's like a deep-seated personal issue. But he essentially blows himself up point blank with the strike. I mean, Athrun gets out before he blows up, but at that point you think Kira's dead. But you find out basically the next episode that somehow Kira is all of a sudden in a plant with Lakoose.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
I did not really like that. And the explanation was that Lakoose's, I guess, friend or
yeah,
random dude who like lives in the same plant as her, whose name is Reverend whatever. He happens to run an orphanage on the same island that they were fighting, and then Kira, I don't know, I guess he must have flown out of the cockpit in the explosion or something, and the Reverend found him, and he was like, "Hey, you have the seed. I should take you to Lakoose." That part made no sense to me. Is there a way to make sense of this?
It was very much a the writing dictated illogical things happening. Of course he was on that island. Of course the Reverend that's fighting for peace is friends with Lakoose because she's also fighting for peace, right? And then of course he somehow managed to bring him back to the plants, and of course now he's going to be here among the plants and have an all too brief stay to hijack another Gundam. He was there for hours.
He was. He got better. He took a nice little nap, and I guess that coordinator body just healed up real nice.
What I didn't like about that is it felt like a missed opportunity to have Kira kind of maybe stay in the plants and, like, I don't know. Well, I guess Lakoose wouldn't do this. There'd have to be someone else. Maybe Patrick even. Maybe Patrick would be like, I came to visit you, and, don't you remember? I used to hang out with Athrun or something. But it would have been such a good opportunity, though, for, like, Kira to be given a sort of a tour of the plants for a few episodes and be told, like, see, we built our own society. They're trying to kill us on Earth. We're just trying to survive. This, you can have a home here. You're really among your people now and all that stuff. But we never got it. Instead, Kira's already sold on fighting Zaft. He just wants to hijack a Gundam and get back to Earth.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think we ever got a conversation between Kira and Patrick Zala, did we?
If we did, it always felt pretty shallow to me. Like, I'm fighting for the plants in my home, or
yeah.
My mother was at Junius 7 or something.
Because you're right. I mean, Patrick Zala, if they were hanging out when they were younger, Patrick Zala probably cooked Kira dinner all the time, or something.
Yeah. Just the most hate-filled cooking you've ever experienced, Brian. Just him yelling in the kitchen, and like
it's like
he always burns the eggs. He's like, I wish I could boil the earth like these eggs. I'll kill you, naturals. Fry their skins like this bacon I'm serving you boys for breakfast. list.
Yeah, I don't know if the Gundam Cafe has any Patrick Zala items on the menu, but they should add some really aggressive like burned foods or like really spicy foods that just no one wants.
It's just red and angry, and like the plate's always served to you like well, because the later use of nuclear weapons, it's like the plate's always been in the microwave. Like that plate gets nuked for like 5 minutes, and like we all say, "Hey, the plate's hot." It's Patrick Zala style. Oh, and you know what? Like, you've seen sugar candy, right? Like,
yeah,
like so it's like glass, right?
Yeah.
We do that, but like it's in the shape of like a shattered plant, and like that's Junius 7, and like that's served, and it's like it's Patrick Zala's. His wife's resting place.
It's called the Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. Oh, here you order the Bloody Valentine. We only serve this in February here at Gundam Land.
Oh, so yeah, I didn't like that. I thought that was like way too convenient for the plot.
Speaking of convenient, while we're on the subject of this event, God, Lakoose essentially having access to any military location, right? They just walked up to the Gundam in a military base, and like he was able to get in. You notice that? Like,
I did.
No, there's no like ID or anything. He just did like a few salutes, and he was in the right color uniform, and they let him in anywhere.
Yep. It all goes back to our idea that Gundam should really have keys.
Yeah, you got me. I mean, you've been saying this for years, Brian. Like,
I have.
Every Gundam hijack in history could have been avoided with a key.
Or some sort of biometric, indicator. I think Banagher had it correct in Unicorn when he like locked it and he was the only one that could pilot it.
Yeah.
That made a lot of sense. Actually,
X does something like that too, I think, right? Because it only has like one joystick that works with the Gundam, right? And
oh yeah,
Jared, like he always carries that thing around with him.
That's right. I mean, I guess Kira does it like in the beginning of this, right? Mood tells him to like lock the strike when they go to Artemis, yeah, and then they can't start it and they get upset.
Oh right, yeah. Well, ironically, they were preventing access to it from their own allies.
Yes,
it was
but
wise,
not
but still.
Yeah.
But yes.
But you would think if you're to your point, you would think that if you're Patrick Zala, and the one thing that you don't want to fall into enemy hands is the N-jammer cancelers, which we'll get to those in a minute. But the N-jammer cancelers, you'd think you'd put a lock on those.
God, well that wouldn't have worked anyways because Lakoose was involved in all that, wasn't he?
True, but I just the justice and the freedom, they should have been locked up.
That's
behind,
true, but
yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, let's try to hypothesize in our own mind. At like a U.S. Army base, would they let Johnny Depp kind of like walk anywhere? Would like who's big? Like, could Ryan Gosling like actually get to like a silo if he wanted to or something?
I mean, I guess so. If it was Lakoose, right? It would be who's like our Lakoose? Is that Lakoose? Like today? Like today, who's our Lakoose? Is that like
no?
Cardi B or like Selena Gomez or something. or
sure,
no,
Ariana Grande or something, right? Okay.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
Billie Eilish. Could Billie Eilish get to the bridge of an aircraft carrier?
Maybe.
Like not even in uniform or anything. Yeah, I think she would get pretty far.
I think so too. They'd be like, "What is she gonna do?"
You know what? Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head right here. So all the enlisted would let her in, right? But the actual officers, they're older, so they'd be wondering, like, who is this person? Is this like a senator's daughter? Is the senator on board or something? And then, like, it'll be too late. They're like, she'll be on the bridge taking selfies, and then, like, the captain will be like, okay, you need to leave.
And then before you know it, Billie Eilish is piloting away your nuclear submarine.
Yep, there she goes. She just stole the prototype. She's going to Zaft.
She took Space Force's most fearsome weapon right from out under our nose.
All right, it made sense then in that case.
There you go, Russia. We gave you your plan.
Enlisted will do anything for like a pretty smile. All right, continue.
So, Atherin, on the other hand, he gets found by Kigali, and Orb turns him over to Zaft because they're neutral, they can't keep people. And so when Atherin gets home, this dude gets a promotion because he blew up the strike, and he gets reassigned off a Rouse team, and he gets awarded with a new Gundam, the Justice Gundam, which has the N-jammer canceller Isaac. So what a terrible name, first of all. you, you don't just keep adding adjectives or nouns to the name. You got to come up with a new name.
Not necessarily, Brian, because you know what Zaft calls the body armor their infantry. It's called bullet cancelers. And the rain gear that all Zaft troops have, it's called rain cancelers. Put on your precipitation canceler. All hand soap that's available, it's called germ cancelers. Now that we're in the rainy season here in beautiful California, like when you go out with your wife, are you gonna tell her like, hand me that rain canceler?
She's not gonna
like,
talk
what?
to me. Yeah.
She's gonna schedule you for an appointment with like your doctor. Like, he's saying funny things.
Something's wrong with him. He's been in quarantine too long. Yeah.
She's like, honey, this isn't a doctor. This is an infection counselor. Please continue.
So the end jammer canceler, I mean, I guess that is in the name, right? It cancels the effect of the end jammers. Sure. Basically re-enabling you.
Or you could just say nuclear reactor.
Yeah, it basically just allows you to use a nuclear reactor again. So then I got to wondering, like, how do end jammer cancelers work? And I didn't look up too much into it, but in my head, I guess I didn't bother to like think, how do end jammers even work, first of all?
That's even more of a leap because we can't wrap our heads around that, right? This is technology that, like, how do you stop a nuclear reaction from happening? You know, using like an energy field or whatever the heck they're doing. But please continue.
I looked it up. So apparently, again, I spent 5 minutes with this on the wiki, but the end jammer works by stopping the flow of free neutrons, which I'm not sure how you do that. But obviously it's some sort of energy field, given that they had to launch a bunch of end jammers into the Earth, and, you know, they needed a bunch because they're only effective within a certain range. So there's some sort of energy field, right? Fine.
It's a dirty coordinator technology.
I can go with that. So the end jammer canceler, I looked up how that must work, and in my head I was like, okay, it must create some sort of localized field that cancels out the other field, which then enables, you know, whatever the end jammers were stopping. And that's actually basically what the wiki says. It says anything that uses a nuclear reactor has to be equipped with an end jammer canceler because it basically creates a localized sort of anti-end jammer field, something small.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, that doesn't really answer how it works, right? So then it just says that they're based on some material that's found in abundance on Mars, but the people who mine it on Mars keep it secret. So it's just kind of like it's kind of like an unobtainium.
I was about to say that is exactly what we call it. It'll be unobtainium.
Yep.
It stops nuclear reactors from working. How does it work? It's made out of unobtainium.
I knew I had asked too many questions when I got to the sentence that said, well, it uses materials from Mars, and I was like, I bet it does, because you know what? Mars wasn't mentioned at all in the show. I dug too deep.
Cut to like Mikazuki on Mars, like mining this material.
Oh,
he has no
what
idea.
if it's all related?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, it is. Turn A, everybody.
There you go.
Google
there
it.
You go. It's coming for you. Moonlight Butterfly.
Spoiler alert, 20 years later.
So, where does that leave us? Well, the Archangel continues on its way to Alaska, but at the same time, Zaft is enacting their plan called Operation Spitbreak, Isaac. And the common thought was that the Zaft was going to target Panama for Operation Spitbreak, but they didn't.
Right.
What did they target instead?
They targeted Josh A. All the plans to attack Panama were a distraction. They don't even care about the spaceport, Brian. They don't even care about the mass driver. All they want to do is wipe out the bulk of the Earth Alliance remaining military at Josh A., also known as Joshua. Actually, they call it Joshua, huh?
Some people call it Joshua, and some people call it Josh A. I did notice that Ramius called it Josh A, like, towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
But I think before that, people were saying Joshua, which is more of like an acronym version of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the acronym is literally Josh A, but everybody probably, in
they just add the
says
U.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Which I assume it's Joint Operations Strategic Headquarters, Alaska.
That makes sense. I don't know what the actual acronym is, but I hope
Our
it's that.
acronyms in the Earth Alliance are better than the acronyms in Zaft. Those dirty coordinators. Please continue, Brian.
But there's a lot of like 3D chess going on here because apparently the Earth Alliance anticipated this and they built this massive super weapon.
Who could have told them?
I don't know. This massive super weapon underneath the Alaska base. And what is that called, Isaac? I think it's one of your favorites.
Oh, this is a beautiful thing. This is a super weapon called Cyclops. I think it's spelled all caps, but I don't think they ever tell us what the acronym is. So Cyclops, when they show it, it's like this massive cavernous. I don't even want to say a room. Literally a massive cavern, and it's filled with these giant dishes pointing upwards, and it's essentially a microwave weapon. It looks like it's superheated the air and caused everything to explode, including people. So, we've all seen those YouTube videos where people put a grape in the microwave and then turn it on, and the heating of the water particles causes the grape to essentially turn into plasma real quick, right? It flashes and it's gone. That's pretty much what this weapon does, except in like a massive area for, hundreds of square miles, it seemed.
It was not pretty. So basically Zaft attacked, the Earth defended itself, but the officers at Joshua sort of retreated and basically said, "Oh, defend the base, guys. We're going to go over here now." And kind of left a lot of their forces there, just enough to trick Zaft into coming in.
Specifically Eurasian forces, because North Atlantic Federation was the bulk of the troops that were able to, I think they said they were redeploying, right? They're conveniently redeploying.
Yes. Before that happened, though, we got another instance of Rao being Rao and maybe him having an ulterior motive here, because he actually found out about the Cyclops system before the Earth Alliance used it, but he didn't bother to tell Zaft, right? He could have told Zaft and said, "Hey, everybody, don't go any further," but he didn't. So clearly Rao is not exactly 100% aligned with Mr. Zala. And as a result, a lot of Zaft's attacking forces go into Joshua, and as Isaac said, they get essentially microwaved alive, along with a lot of Earth Alliance forces as well.
It's an insane number, I think. Like 80% of the attacking force, the Zaft force, was killed or something massively high.
Yeah, I lost track of a lot because so in the back half of the show, both sides lose healthy percentages of their fleets multiple times, but there were so many percentages given that I forgot what percentage of a percentage we were at by the end of the show. But yeah, Isaac's right. I think they did say 80% from the Joshua attack. But I wasn't clear if that was all their forces or just the Earth forces. Like the ones on Earth, right?
Well, I mean, a lot of the forces attacked from space to get to Josh A. But I assumed it meant like out of the forces attacking, which meant it was a bulk, not a bulk of their forces, but a sizable part of it at least. Yeah. So things are, if your population's in the millions, to lose like a lot of your military, it probably isn't good, compared to the Earth Federation, which is in the billions, and a couple of drafts and they'll be back to the regular numbers they normally have.
Right. The one thing I did not like about that battle was the Earth Alliance forces who were in Alaska. They kept waiting for reinforcements from Panama. And I was like, that is not remotely close to Alaska. It's going to take those people forever to get there. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I was trying to put it in my head. I was like, okay, were reinforcements already on the way prior to the battle? And that's like saying we're waiting for reinforcements from Panama. The ETA is 3 hours, so we essentially need to hold out for 3 hours. Or did they mean maybe that like Panama was going to use their mass driver to put some troops into space, and then they'd be able to sort of
fly down real quick?
They'll be able to show up within hours to reinforce.
Right.
So I was like, okay, whatever. Then again, who knows what the officers leaving told the remaining troops? Like, maybe they said reinforcements from Panama will be here soon. And then they left. So, those troops could have been believing whatever misinformation they had.
Yeah, I guess just in the heat of the moment, if you're like, oh, we need help now, I hope Panama gets here soon. Yeah. you should really be hoping that somewhere else that they're coming from somewhere else in Alaska, which by itself is like enormous.
That was Private Daniels. He failed geography. He has no idea. Like he's from I don't know. Maybe he's from like a part of the world that's like he has no reference where like Panama is, how close it is to to Alaska. He's not from North America.
Oh boy. So the Earth Alliance activates the Cyclops system. Zaft takes a fat L on that one. Meanwhile, in the plants, Athrun finds out that Lakoose gave the Freedom Gundam to his pal Kira, and Kira flew down and saved the Archangel. And so Athrun goes and to find Lakoose, and he basically, shakes her down, and he's like, "Why did you do this? This is unforgivable. That has an N-jammer canceller. You can't give him that." And he actually even points a gun at Lakoose, which I thought was a little extreme.
Yeah.
Didn't think that was a good look on Athrun's character.
Well.
Yeah, just a smidge, huh?
Things are bad, just take out a gun.
Oof. So then what I thought would happen next was really strange. And again, I don't know if this is where they wrote themselves into and they needed to get to the next big set piece. So Zaft takes heavy losses at Joshua from Cyclops system. And then they immediately are like, well, that sucks, but let's go destroy Panama to strike back. And then if I'm remembering right, Isaac, they go to Panama and they basically just like take Panama without any trouble.
Yeah.
They're in trouble like really briefly when the Earth Alliance brings out the strike daggers, and all of a sudden it's like, Earth Alliance has mobile suits now. Watch out, and the strike daggers are doing a number on the Zaft suits. But then Zaft uses this, like, I don't know, was it an EMP thing that only affected the Earth Alliance suits? But how did it only affect the Earth Alliance suits? Am I dumb?
Maybe Zaft was like clever enough that they were like, okay, even if they send out their own mobile suits, the Earth Alliance and Naturals are dumb enough to not have EMP shielding. We've had EMP shielding since day zero. So let's use an EMP weapon on the off chance it'll work. And guess what? It paid off.
Yeah, I'd say it worked because it like annihilated basically all of the Earth Alliance. Yeah. And Zaft took over Panama.
See, Brian, none of this would have happened if we followed my plan to put a Cyclops system at every base. We would have fried those coordinators the moment the base was in trouble.
You're right. The Cyclops system was brutal, but what a tactic that was. Have we seen that in other Gundam series? I don't think so, right?
No, the closest I think would be Solar Rain, your own troops, your own fleet.
Yeah.
Mu was able to recognize the Cyclops originally because he saw it used almost in the same way on the moon in some early battle during the Bloody Valentine War.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, no, we haven't seen such a masterful use of luring your enemy in, essentially losing the battle, but making it so painful for your enemy that they lost the battle also.
Yeah. And like you said, the Cyclops system was massive. It must have taken them months at a minimum to build that thing.
Yeah. It was cooking for a long time, Brian. A lot of communication with a special someone between Earth and him.
So I assume this is Rao's doing, you believe?
Absolutely. I think Bitbreak's intended true target was leaked. Moneybags Murata Azrael was able to, kind of put the pedal to the metal in terms of getting a Cyclops system where it needed to be. And then, everything else just fell into place.
So the thing we haven't discussed yet is now we enter the moment of great decision for our protagonists here. So while our heroes were at Alaska, it became clear to them that the Cyclops system, was going to go off, and they had to make a choice. That was to either continue obeying their orders from the Earth Alliance, or sort of go rogue and kind of abandon the mission. Well, Ramius ended up telling everyone that the Cyclops system was there, and basically told everyone to flee because they were going to die. Now, obviously, right. A lot of people still died, but by doing so, they can't really go back to the Earth Alliance. So instead, they go to Orb. Our old pals at Orb. We're now back at Orb. We're going like to Orb and back, and from Orb, now we're back at Orb, going in circles here. And here, your pal Azrael now becomes a main character at this point. Mr.
Thank
Blue
God.
Cosmos himself.
Someone with some sense. Finally, the adults are in the room.
Isaac loves his dictators, or his wannabe dictators.
May I just say that is a fine suit, sir. It takes a lot of confidence for a man to wear a teal suit in any time frame or any timeline. Have you seen his Instagram and TikToks? Like, he's so popular with his teal suit.
I bet him and Billie Eilish, or maybe they do some TikToks together.
Probably, yeah. Why not? I mean, the color palettes, it's a match.
So, Mr. Azrael here, this part of the story moved very quickly, right? We found out that now the Earth Alliance, they basically lost all their spaceports, and so they need some more spaceports, their mass drivers, essentially. And Orb happens to have 2 mass drivers. Mm-hmm. So Azrael's like, hey, we should just go take theirs. And it's time for them to choose a side. They can't be neutral anymore. And so he basically tells like the Earth Alliance Council, hey, I'm going to go persuade them. And then like the next scene is literally him and like all of the Earth fleet just like heading to Orb. And I was like, wow, that was like that escalated quickly. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm not sure. What did he tell them? You think like it's okay? Like I'm going with the ambassadorial, fleet. It's it's just a few ships, guys. It'll be all right. And then like he ends up taking like the fleets from like all like from like 5 of the oceans.
It was quite ridiculous. And at this point, Azrael has his new. So, I've been calling the Zaft boys the Zaft boys. So he has his own little trio of boys now, Azrael's boys. And was this just like a gimmick that didn't age well, Isaac? But they use a lot of like gamer puns. Like they call everybody a noob. And when they get repairs, they say like, thanks for the healing potion. I don't know. It didn't quite age well, I don't think.
Maybe, probably, but I mean that was just one of the guys, right? The one pilot that like his downtime idea is like he only games,
Yeah.
Maybe the other pilot that was like I don't know, the reader or something would be like, or the music guy would be like, oh, this new upgrade's gonna hit all the right notes or something. Do they all have like a gimmick, like like this next battle will be the next chapter in my life?
Yeah. Or these guys were pretty messed up. I believe they're referred to as the extended. How would you describe them, Isaac? They take pills.
Well, let's clear something up, Brian. I would describe them as patriots for the Earth Alliance, fighting for a blue and pure world against the filthy orbital enemies, which are coordinators. That's what I describe them as. Maybe they have a little bit of a pill problem. Maybe they need a little happy pick me up now and then. Some of Grandpa's cough medicine, injected into their arms to keep them going. Hey, we all got some problems. They're working through it. After the war, we'll get them some help. But until
those
then,
in glass houses don't throw stones.
When this war's over, we'll figure it out. But until then, roll up your sleeve and make a fist.
Yeah. So these guys are enhanced naturals, but due to the enhancements, they have to take these pills that basically keeps them out of these withdrawal symptoms. And they have new Gundams, Isaac. We have Calamity, Raider, and Forbidden. So a whole new set of enemies on the battlefield. These guys, they didn't have a lot of personality to me, Isaac. Did these guys work for you?
I would have liked to hear and see more of them, actually. Like, it would have been cool to see them with the other characters really rubbing them the wrong way, or maybe like having really vulnerable moments with the other characters where they're like, oh, these guys are, they clearly didn't have a lot of options, and I guess if Azrael's holding your leash, you kind of got to go in a battle no matter what. I'm kind of a fan of Forbidden Gundam. It's the cool one that has has this hood thing that goes over it. It's got those shields it carries around. The other ones I'm not too big on, though.
Interesting. That's the one I like the least out of the 3.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, which one do you like the most? Let me say that.
Calamity, I think, looks good, and it would fit right in like Gundam X or Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
That design strikes me as very Gundam
yeah.
X. It reminds me a lot of Gundam Leopard from Gundam X.
Okay.
I like it because it's green. It's kind of neat. We don't see a lot of green Gundams. It's got a decent color scheme. It seems like a cohesive design. Raider's the one that turns into like the bird mode, right?
Yeah, the little quick flight mode thing.
Yeah. Okay. So the Gundam mode I think looks like an aerial bot. from Transformers in a good way. The aerial bots are one of those like combiner teams that combines into like the bigger Transformer.
Oh my God, Brian! If you squint your eyes, it's Starscream.
Yeah, right. It looks like a Transformer.
They made Starscream.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And there's an aerial bot that has like a black and red color scheme. I forget which one it is, but Transformer. If there's a Transformers fans, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The bird mode is cool, except I could never take that stupid Gundam face in the bird's chest seriously. Like, it'd be flying towards you, and there's like a Gundam head there, and I was like, oh, what is that?
A little silly.
So that always threw me off. But besides that, I thought that one was okay. Forbidden, I don't know. It just I didn't like the beam curving gimmick. I thought that was kind of silly.
My logic with that is, why didn't we put that on everything? Like, you don't even really need a point at this point.
Well, why is Mirage Colloid not on everything?
God, I mean, we can't, writing reasons, but in episode 0, if the Earth Alliance put like Mirage Colloid around like 5 ships and got them to the planets without being noticed, the war would have been over in minutes.
Yeah, put the Mirage Colloid on the nukes.
Yeah, I mean, they would have never, they would have no idea where they're going. All right, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that hood thing. I thought the backpack was just too big. I actually thought the base Gundam for Forbidden looked pretty good. It reminded me a lot of like Gundam Mark II. But yeah, I don't know. The hood thing looked like a Xeon amphibious mobile armor.
That's why I like it.
Oh, there you go.
I'll admit though, it's a bit of a clunky design. Like, to an extent, it might be half baked. It's got those big clunky shields, right? It's whole hood little turtle shell backpack thing that it does is maybe a bit too oversized for it, but I don't know. It's got a special place for me. I'm like, I couldn't even tell you which one of the extended pilots it. You know, they're just replaceable to me. But
right. Absolutely. That's my point. Is that we only knew them together and we didn't know any backstory. So I don't really know who they are, and so those guys didn't really work for me, because if it's going to work for me, I either need to love them as a character or I need to really love their suit, and I didn't really love any of their suits. I didn't really know who they were.
Missed opportunity. I would have loved to learn more, get down their little story and all that, but not going to happen.
I think it would have been neat if when they came out of their, I don't know, extended mode, maybe they got more sane and we could maybe hear more about them.
Oh, they were like pretty sympathetic or nice guys or something like that.
Maybe more of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, rather than just I'm crazy all the time.
Yeah, or they turned out they were like students that, I don't know, they were with Kira or something, or I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they'd run across the other characters, earlier in their lives or something, and now they're adults.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Totally. And maybe it's just too many characters, too little time at this point, right? Because we're in the home stretch here.
Yeah, it was more, okay, we have to introduce bad guy Gundams under Azrael's essentially direct control. Who would pilot them? Pretty much bad guys. Okay, here are the bad guys. That's it.
Yeah. The one thing that the Forbidden did have going for it was it had like the beam deflection stuff, which basically made the Freedom Gundam pretty useless against it. And Kira kept just kind of shooting him with the beams, and I was like, Kira, it's not working. And for how smart Kira is, he really didn't change up his strategy too much against Forbidden. And every time he'd shoot him, the Forbidden guy would just kind of laugh. And I was like, this again.
I mean, in Kira's defense, like, he's usually fighting like 15 mobile suits at once. So, it becomes a shooting game at that point, right?
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, also here's where Mu gets the strike. Orb fixes the strike after Athrun kind of blew it up. My understanding is it only happens in the special edition, which is what we watched on. Both Isaac and I watched this on Funimation's new service. It's the one that has the new dub. And Mu equips all the striker packs at once to become the perfect strike. And I was like, what a boss move, that Mu. What a good guy. And here's also one of his best lines of the show when he finally kisses Ramius, because now they're not like technically.
Yeah, the rogue.
Yeah, they're rogue. They can do whatever they want. I mean, screw the chain of command now. So he just goes ahead and kisses the captain, and she says, apparently she had a boyfriend before and he was a mobile armor pilot and he died. And he says, good thing I pilot a mobile suit. I was like, got her, Moo. That was smooth. So, okay, then this is another. So similar to the Reverend thing, Isaac. This next thing really bothered me. Okay, so. Our heroes are holed up at Orb, and Orb is going to have to make a stand now because Azrael's coming, and he's basically saying, hey, you're going to join Earth, or you're you're done. We're gonna take you out. So Orb decides to not give in and make a stand.
Fools.
That's those fools, and it's not obviously not going well, right? So they retreat, and their plan is to send this ship called the Kusanagi into space, and it's basically like a proto Archangel. It's kind of the same ship, which fine, that's fine. You can do that. So Lord Izumi, he reveals to Kigali that he gives her the picture that Kigali and Kira are siblings, and then he makes Kigali get on to the Kusanagi, and then him and like the other important people in Orb blow themselves up. Why didn't he just get on the ship? There was no need for him to blow himself up. They could have remote detonated the place. That served no purpose. That was so stupid.
I mean, I guess so, yeah, but I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, well, it couldn't be a bomb that has to explode by, like, the hand of the Lord and, like, his little local surrounding supporting lords, right? Those other guys there, right? Maybe it was a case of, like, he felt that so many had died on Orb during the course of the battle that it would be wrong for him to leave. You know, if the nation will fall, the Lord must fall with the nation.
I guess, but he could have blown it up, got on the ship, and pretended to have died, and then came back later on when they sorted out the conflict. It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to sacrifice yourself if you had to, right? So, for example, in Rogue One, the sacrifice made sense there because they had to be on the planet in order to do the thing that they were trying to do. Here, he literally says, bye, it really sucks, we have to do this. And then he like walks back down the ramp, goes into the thing, pushes the button. We don't need to do that. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, you have a really valid point, because can you imagine, like, from a political perspective, how much more weight it would have if Lord Izumi was, like, you know, in space saying, you know, clearly the Earth Alliance is being run by, like, you know, warmongers because they leveled our peaceful nation where we're neutral. You know, just him essentially being a mouthpiece for why the war needs to kind of close. Maybe they could have even kept him going to, like, the final episode where he could broker the peace, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
so I don't know. That really bothered me.
Yeah, for Kigali's development, they needed him to go away.
Yeah, and it was dramatic. I get it in the show, but if you stop and think about it for a sec, I was like, that makes zero sense.
She's like, you can get on the ship. There's like so much room.
Yeah, there's plenty of room. You know, you could even take all of his friends. It wasn't. They weren't cramped.
And Brian over by the window, like, hey, is he coming?
Nope, we're good. We're just gonna blow ourselves up now.
I just finished preparing his room.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Archangel and the Kusanagi, they lift off into space, and they decide to go to these abandoned colonies called at Lagrange Point 4. If you want to know what a Lagrange point is, go listen to our Space Colony podcast where we talk about Lagrange points. Look at that, Isaac. Like 30 weeks ago we covered that.
Well, you know what?
It's coming back.
We can see the future. If only Lord Izumi could see his own death coming.
And so they lift off into space, and things are not going well in Zaft. Lakoose is now like on the run. She's broadcasting anti-Zaft propaganda, or anti-Zala propaganda, I should say. And I think here in the special edition, Isaac, I don't know if you caught it, but they added like a Shin cameo and a Rey cameo. I think it was around episode 39-ish.
Huh.
They showed him at like, it must have been like a training academy or something. It was real quick. I was like, oh, is that Shin? And I think they went and added that in the special edition.
No, I didn't catch it. The only time I think about Shin is when like Orb is being evacuated and like the battle's happening. Then I'm like, I wonder if I'm gonna see Shin, or like I'm like, oh, that could be Shin.
Yeah.
That burnt bunch of trees.
So sad.
That's what you get for supporting the coordinators. Anyway.
So yeah, it's not going well. Mr. Klein, Lakoose's dad, he gets hunted down and killed by basically Patrick Zala's goons. Pretty brutal death. They kind of just barge into his house and shoot him.
Yeah, not even like an attempt to arrest him, you know?
Nope.
Well, like politically, things in Zaft, I guess, were really unstable, you know?
Yeah, Patrick Zala really wields a lot of power in this nation.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about the Earth Alliance, Asriel still kind of has to go through the formalities of the little committee that they run things with.
Yeah.
You can't march in there with goons with guns and like saying, okay, we're gonna get the nukes. He essentially kind of had to ask for permission to convince them.
Yes. Azrael smartly deduces that freedom and justice are running on nuclear power. And then we get a bit of a flashback, very quick. Am I interpreting this right, that he basically hates coordinators because he got beat up by them as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that kid took martial arts or something, but he was able to fight like 6 naturals at once, right?
He did. He really just kind of, flipped one way and another the other, and I was like, oh, we got Bruce Lee over here.
Right. Sometimes, you picked the wrong coordinator to try to like gang up on, because like if it was anybody else, they would have been, they would have won. It would have been a curb stomp. But he picked like the one guy whose like mom was like a jiu-jitsu champion or something in the plans. So yeah, and then to make matters worse, I think Azrael's mom like slapped him. He's like, "How dare you say you wanted to be a coordinator, or you wish you were a coordinator?" God, slap. Bite your tongue, young man.
Yeah, so Azrael is basically just bitter, and now he wants to kill all coordinators. Him and Patrick Zala are basically two halves of the same, coin, right? They're the opposite sides. Azrael at this point wants to kill all coordinators, and Mr. Zala wants to kill all naturals. So you can see where this series is headed. This is also the point at which Kigali shows Kira the baby picture that she received from her father, and explains that they are siblings. And while an interesting revelation, Isaac, does this add anything to the story?
No, this just came out of nowhere, and it was like, I don't know how long the writing process had been, or if they were kind of maybe not making things up as they go, but they had enough runway to change plots. Because for a while it seemed like, oh, will Kigali be into Kira? Is this going to be something that happens? It's very much a Luke and Leia thing, right? Where like
totally what I was thinking. Totally what I was thinking.
She kisses him in Empire Strikes Back, and then in the next movie you're like, yeah, that happened, but like you should forget about it because they're brother and sister, and she's really going to end up with Han Solo. So they wanted to be okay. Lakoose would be with Kira, and then Athrun would be with Kigali. Everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah, so a lot of plotting on that, but not sure there was a real payoff there. One thing that was really weird here in this part of the story is that Rao had captured Flay, and was he using her as like his like little concubine, or what? What was the point of that?
It was kind of like weird, right? Because also, what was also even more weird was that nobody said anything about the fact that like he gave her a uniform, like she stayed in his room. She was kind of his secretary, I guess.
She slept naked in his room.
Oh, she did? Oh,
yes.
Wow.
There was some implications there, which is what I'm wondering about. I wasn't clear if it was his room. Did you assume that was his room?
No, I assumed that. I assumed the one with the desk was his room, but she was sleeping somewhere else, maybe, or.
Well, there's one shot. I don't remember if it's in the beginning or towards the end, but you see her sleeping and she's clearly naked. And this is Flay we're talking about, and she has protection issues, and she starts like seeing her father in him when he's like, "Oh, I'll keep you safe, Flay. Don't worry. This war is terrible." Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Did they just decide that they really needed to make like a Char, Amuro, Lala parallel here towards the end, and that's why they did this?
I don't think so, because like Flay's not Lala, like it's too different to be even close to Lala. So I'm gonna say no. They just made weird decisions.
We also see at this point the Earth Alliance launches a new ship, Isaac, called the Dominion. Yes. And it's a black version of the Archangel with a certain captain at the helm. Who is it? It's
Nataro. She's finally in command. She's going to run things the way she'd run things, and she's 100% loyal to the Earth Alliance.
The bitch is back, Isaac.
She's not a bitch. How dare you? A lot of her decisions would have been right.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, she was saying a lot of truth back when she was number 2.
Oh, absolutely. So at this point, everybody's getting a new ship. Apparently, there's a new ship in development at Zaft as well, Isaac. Our bubblegum princess, Lakoose, apparently has access to this ship as well. So not only has she had access to the Freedom, gave it away, now she has access to the new ship that went along with the Freedom and the Justice. And it's called the Eternal. I guess she's the captain of this ship, but she has like a co-captain, and it's a man that's back from the dead, Isaac.
It's the Desert Tiger, minus an arm and like an eye and scarring. He's back, Brian. Andrew's back.
Old Andy's back. I was super glad. I totally forgot that he survived. So I was legitimately surprised that he was back. I guess I forgot about this plot development in the last 20 years. This is also around the time when Athrun decides to go have a talk with his dad, where things don't go so well. I think Athrun is looking for confirmation of what will it take for his father to end the war. Does his father really want all naturals dead?
Confirmed.
And yeah. Mr. Zala is very upset at Athrun for taking the Justice because it has the Endjammer Canceller. And he even shoots Athrun in the shoulder and says he has disappointed him. And Athrun has probably his best line in the whole show. He says, "So have you." So I was like, ooh, way to get back at your dad, Athrun. You tell him. What did you think of that scene, Isaac? That was like the pivotal scene for Athrun in the show. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was a very well done personality turn, I guess, or development turn, I should say, for Athrun. It's in Patrick's sinister purple light office. I don't know why it's like that. Someone should tell him it's bad for his eyes.
Lighting is expensive in the plants, Isaac.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Coordinator eyes, they can see in purple light. Also, like, didn't Patrick have like goons come out of like the woodwork and like point their guns at his son?
Oh, he did. Yeah, they all came in. They all pointed guns at him. If you were the goon, wouldn't you think like, this is awkward?
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, this is a family squabble. Like, there's no, like, I can restrain people, but I don't think I'm going to be blowing people away.
Yeah.
These are Zala people, so they're ready to pull the trigger at a moment's notice. Good for Athrun. He checked off the final check to put himself into the group of neutral people, the group of people that aren't with Earth Alliance or Zaft. We're getting ready for the final act.
So Natarl gets a new crew member in the form of Azrael. So he boards the Dominion with his 3 boys. If you're watching the show, you clearly know that you're headed for like a mirror face-off now, right? Between Natarl and Ramius.
Yeah.
At the end here. With
literally
Gundam ship versus Gundam ship. Yeah.
Exactly.
The one thing I noticed here, Isaac, was that with Azrael's 3 boys, you had the 5 original Zaft boys plus Kira. That's 8 opportunities to have a girl Gundam pilot, and we don't have one.
Yeah. I mean, this was 2000-ish, so not that long ago, but also something that should have been done and is long overdue still.
Yeah, it's interesting because you had Ramius and you had Natarl, and you had Kigali, which are all strong characters. They're just not in a Gundam. I mean, Kigali gets one at the end, but it's like 2 episodes.
Right. The ones that we do see in Gundams, like it's the B team at Orb.
Yeah, the Estrays.
And I mean, I think they were the mechanics, right? So yes, they know how the machines work, but they're not necessarily the best at using them.
Yeah, just something interesting I noted.
You're right. It's not good.
Yeah. I'm not saying it had to be 50-50. I'm just saying out of the 8, I thought maybe 1.
Yeah. Just because it's called a cockpit doesn't mean you can't put a woman in there. So, come on, guys. I might be Blue Cosmos, but even I want women pilots. So,
and I'm not saying it's a knock on the show. It's just interesting that we have this sort of big movement today, and now you go back and you it kind of sticks out a little bit on the rewatch. So
yeah, it's like, wow, it's kind of glaring.
Yeah, in this instance, complaint confirmed for sure.
Yeah.
So, and we do get our first go round with Natarl versus Ramius. And Natarl just kind of goes right for it. They have a talk, and Ramius says, "Hey, you know what? We're never going to give in." And Natarl basically outdoes Ramius, which is exactly what you think would happen. I mean, Natarl always seemed more of a strategy person than Ramius. That's at least that's how I always saw it. I don't know about you, Isaac.
Yeah. Well, in Ramius's defense, like, it almost seemed like command was thrust upon her. So she was never really in the mindset, as opposed to Natarl, who looks like her career path was, I'm going to be in that seat one day, and if there's a war, I'm going to win it.
Yeah. Yeah, she'll cut someone to get where she needs to go, right?
Yeah, and Azrael coming on board, sure, whatever, as long as we succeed.
Yeah, and she pulls a really cool maneuver here where she fires missiles like over to the side, and the missiles stop for a long time, and then later on she fires them, she like powers them back up, and then they hit the Archangel when Ramius isn't expecting it, and I thought that was pretty neat.
Very clever, yeah. I think even Azrael, yeah, he was like, "What are you doing?" Like, did he say something sexist too? I think. Oh, I'm sure he did a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, no, he definitely did right when he entered the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did right when he entered the ship. Right, he's like, "Oh, she's as beautiful as they say she is. Should I consider this to be a perk or something?" Quite a battle happening here. Azrael's boys are giving Kira quite the runaround. They end up going into one of these colonies. All the players sort of end up in the colony. Rao, Mu, Kira, and it just so happens to be this human development facility with a bunch of fetuses in all these like tubes, which was pretty gross.
Yeah, how convenient.
Yeah. And we're gonna cut it there for this episode. Next week we'll conclude our review on the back half of Gundam SEED by asking all of our lingering questions and of course getting Genesis. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on Twitter at Colony Dropcast. Until then, keep those Minovsky reactors warm, stay safe out there, and have a great week, everybody.